TJ, tell us what are some challenges you face in ensuring that the classroom training you're providing is successful, is going to be successful?
I'm going to mention two briefly, and then I'm going to let my colleagues, because I know from our conversation beforehand, they have similar challenges. I'm going to let them elaborate on it there. Time and attention. And I think that, as I see heads nodding around the room here, that this is not a surprise, nothing revealing there. But I will tell a quick story is that earlier in this fiscal year, our CEO, who's somebody that went through leadership development that I designed and facilitated there, so that's a nice thing to have that connection. And so he's talked about how he values learning. He put out a note and said, hey, let's keep our eye on the ball here. There's really 5 things, and if you're not doing one of these 5 things, you really should consider it. Well, learning wasn't one of them. Right? So it was the contract in Texas and California, accessibility, and the new SAT helping the College Board be successful with that there. So I shot him off an email and said, Walt, trying to tell me something here? Oh, no, we assume that. But see, that's part of the difficulty, is that when you go and ask for people's time, they say, yeah, but when Walt said 5 things, how is this relating to the 5 things? So I think getting people's time and securing their attention are the 2 biggest challenges.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dennis?
Well, I think we take a very unique approach. So every employee in the bank, whether they're in the boardroom or the mailroom, they spend 14 weeks with me, and we do personal development training. I mean, every employee in the bank creates a vision board for their life, of where they want their life to be 5, 10, 15 years from now. So my job is to create an internal why in everyone so that they know the reason why they need to get better. And it's usually not because shareholder value. Most of our employees could care less about shareholder value. They don't care about our goals. They don't care that the supervisor wants them to get better. That doesn't motivate an average person that's making $15 an hour. So our job is to get people to want to have a better life. And so we put them through personal training, and they start to look at the reasons why they need to learn. And it becomes their reason. And so all of a sudden, everything that we offer, they say, well, I want to take that class because I want to advance my career. I want to increase my salary. I want to be a role model for my children. I want to live a better life, me and my husband. Everybody has their why. And so we're taking a very unique approach. We're using a positive psychology approach to it. And so everyone goes through personal development training. And then from there, most of our people are students. Our biggest challenge is money. How do we get the company to write the checks to pay for all of this? And so I'm a salesman. So I sell every concept. I spend a lot of time on building a sales case because the CEO and the COO wants to see, how do I get money back? So you want $500,000 to do this. What do we get in return? So I have to sell it. I have to create a proposal, and I have to say, okay, listen, we're going to invest $500,000, but over 2 years, we're going to get this back. We're going to get better customer service scores, and that will lead to, or we're going to have this, or we're going to have that. And so they say, okay, we want that, and it's going to cost us this. Okay, makes sense. And so I think that's one of the missing links, is that if you're a training department, you also have to be a good sales department. You have to sell your services to the organization so that they go out and promote it. And so I think our benefit is that my background is sales. And so I could sell this stuff. And then people get excited. My CEO and the executive team went through 14 weeks with me. They know where I'm coming from. They know the curriculum. They know the foundation. And so they're out there talking about it. And they know how these classes change their lives. So we're taking a very different approach. I haven't met any company that does it the way we do it. So we're pretty excited about that. We've been doing it for 6 years like this. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our biggest challenges are motivation and scale. But I wouldn't even say motivation is a challenge. People ask me, how do you motivate people to go to training? My answer is I don't. Right? I actually would rather work with 5 people that want to be there than 50 that are forced to be there. I don't love required training. In fact, if I'm told to do something, I automatically don't want to do it. Right? I don't know if anybody else is like that, but I'm just averse to authority, I guess. And so we believe, like Dennis is saying, this word-of-mouth marketing thing is more valuable than anything that a training team can tell you to do. So if you create a great session that's engaging and people are into and it's valuable and they have takeaways, I'm going to go back to my desk. When you ask me how that class was, I'm going to be honest. And I'm going to say it was boring, I didn't get anything out of it, or I'm going to be, you know what, it was actually really cool and I have some things I can start using immediately. that word of mouth marketing to us is invaluable. And we're constantly piloting things with small groups, but those are the people that are our friends of learning that we know are going to bring it out into the organization and speak highly of it. But the onus is on us to make it a good session also. And then scale. In my 3 years at BuzzFeed, we've gone from 100 employees to 1,500. And scaling has been a real challenge for us. And that's where technology comes in to help create more online classes and things like that. But again, we have learning liaisons in each of those offices, those friends of learning that help reinforce our messages and even facilitate some of our sessions for us, and they're not even on the training team. So how can you take the talent that's in the organization and leverage them as well?
Someone asked me, what is your job at the bank? And they said, well, you're a trainer. And I started to laugh, and I said, no, I'm not a trainer. My job is not to train 1,800 people. My job is to get 1,800 people to want to have a great life, to wake up a winner. That's a whole different approach to our business. So if you look at the foundation of our business, there's a great book out there called The Happiness Advantage. It's written by Sean Aker. He's a Harvard professor. He teaches corporate happiness. I'm going to tell you, so you should read the book. And then you'll realize what is the essence of the human being to get them to want to improve their lives. That is our challenge. It's not even a budget as much as, if I get 50 people in a room, how do I get 50 people to learn something today? And that's our challenge, because even if they learn a little bit, they take that value to where they are. So just to add to what you were saying, if you have people in the organization, we have people in the organization, they're stuck. They're just stuck. They could come to a class and they can't wait for it to be over. So we handpick our people to go to class. We do not open enroll anything. I sit and I look at the roster and I mix people up. There is a thing called mirror neurons. We all have them. It's in our brain. You will mimic what you see. So if I put 5 people that are struggling with 15 people that are making things happen, and I put them in the classroom for the day, I know, even if they don't even realize it, but some of that energy is going to rub off on the 5 that are stuck. So there's a lot of work behind really getting people to grow. It's not just put them in there like cattle and hopefully they'll get something. We don't take that approach. We spend a lot of time on positive psychology and emotional intelligence, because that is the foundation of a learning organization, is how people feel and interact about the curriculums and the training that we have. And if they can fall in love with it, then you have yourself a winner. So we do mix it up. We don't mind people. We'll force people to come. But we know they're sitting at a table with 3 people that are making things happen in the organization. And they're going to interact. And hopefully they'll walk out saying, I know Marge. She can do it. Maybe I can do it. And that's we want that to happen. And it's been happening for us. It's really cool the way things work.
So interesting. You're using things like positive psychology
All the time
to get people to want to learn. BuzzFeed, you're using champions and things. TJ, how are you tackling some of the challenges that you're facing?
I think some of the things that Dennis and Regis have said certainly come in there. This notion, I want to build off the last thing that Dennis said there. Another way of talking about it is scaffolding. Is can you get people who are much further along in with people who are at an earlier stage there, and you do see the effect that Dennis spoke of there, where they move much more quickly because they're seeing someone else and they're building off of that there. So having groups in that. The other thing that we've been using more recently is co-creation. So for instance, we're going through a very large initiative right now around refining management practices at ETS. We got some things back from our employee engagement survey and we said, that doesn't seem right. I mean, you could be satisfied with that, but that doesn't seem right. Let's probe into it. So instead of coming back and saying, here's the curriculum, here's the initiative, I have taken, at this point, half of the managers, and it is my goal to have every single one of the 700 managers into a room, put them at tables, with mixing them up with other people there, and I've said, here's what we have. This is just my take on it here. I want you to make sense of this. And then I want you to work with us around what should be the response to this. What was very interesting is maybe I've gotten 1 out of 300 plus managers who was defensive about it. Well, I don't know about where'd you get this data from? But everyone else, because in part, every manager also is managed by somebody, right? So they had that take on it there. Everyone has said, well, there's something to that, and I think the cause might be this. But one of the things that you find, and I just want to say that this is something that came up, at least when I spoke about this in this book here, Building an Innovative Learning Organization, is that some of it's not about learning. Some of it's about structure. Some of it's about leadership there. So there's a system effect to this here, and you have to pay attention to all the areas of the system. But I think this notion of co-creating gives people much more of a stake in their learning.
Yeah, can I add to that? I completely agree with that. We don't have our values painted on the walls at BuzzFeed. We very much believe that the culture is created from the organization. So we absolutely enable our managers and all our employees to help guide that and create the process. And that's how the bottom-up approach works really well for us versus a top-down approach, because sometimes senior leadership doesn't necessarily have their finger on the pulse of the organization and the people on the front lines. And those are the people you want to come to the session. So you have to speak their language and understand their real needs versus just saying, this is the mold you have to fit into.